Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. A huge debate going on right now. Some people feel that Terence Crawford has surpassed Floyd Mayweather. Others feel there's nothing Crawford can do to ever surpass Floyd Mayweather. But the bottom line is when fans debate greatness, the names Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather seem to be coming up more and more, especially after Crawford did the business against Canelo. There's no question that both men are generational talents, undefeated, and widely regarded as some of the best fighters of all time. And many people feel that the eras would not have mattered. They feel that Floyd and Bud would have held their own and dominated most of the opponents. But the thing is this, right? When you look at Crawford's stunning recent run, many are asking, man, how has Bud already eclipsed Floyd Mayweather? Or is Floyd still untouchable as far as accomplishments when it comes to boxing? So I think we should break down and explore both arguments in depth. First, the case for Crawford having surpassed Mayweather, and second, the case against it. But I think by the end, fans will have a full picture of what I think, why this debate right now is probably one of the hottest in boxing today. So when you just think about a guy like Terence Crawford and the case for him having surpassed Floyd, you can just start with the obvious, man, becoming undisputed in multiple divisions. Crawford is the only male fighter in the four-belt era to become undisputed in 3 different weight classes. He did it at 140, he did it at 147, and then he did it at 168. Floyd never did it. Now, while Floyd did collect belts across 5 divisions, he never unified all 4 major belts in a single division, let alone 2. I personally think he could have done it, but the bottom line is he didn't do it. So this makes Crawford's achievement historically rare and undeniably powerful when you start talking about if Crawford has surpassed Floyd. Then when you talk about finishing elite opponents, Floyd often coasted to decision wins, especially later in his career. Early in his career, Floyd was banging people out. But one thing about Floyd, he would just outbox opponents over 12 rounds and be okay with that. Crawford, on the other hand, has an elite finishing ability. Crawford has killer instinct. Every opponent Crawford faced since 2016 had been stopped inside the distance until he ran into Sean. He stopped Sean Porter, stopped Spence. It was when he ran into Marjamov where he had some issues, but he still dominated. But the bottom line with a guy like Crawford, he just had that kill or be killed instinct. And that resonates with fans who want dominance, not just points, especially those who are watching Floyd and felt Floyd could have done more to dominate and possibly get knockouts. He just chose not to. One thing for sure when it comes to Terence Crawford, he's coming in there and his whole thing is to be nefarious, wicked, and hurt whoever's in the ring with him. But you see, you got to understand with Floyd and Crawford, and you're talking about performance against elite competition. When Crawford fought Spence in 2023, we all know about it, so I'm not going to sit here, man, and keep beating a dead horse. But the bottom line, that shit it was domination. I'll just leave it as that. Spence, undefeated. Majority of people thought he was going to beat Crawford. It is what it is. But Crawford did what he does. He dismantled him, embarrassed him, beat him down. I think he took a pound of flesh out of him. And you've never seen... Some people say you've never seen Floyd have such a one-sided destruction of a prime, undefeated champion of that magnitude. I think the key thing is to understand if Floyd has dismantled a prime, undefeated champion the way Crawford did Spence. I don't know if Floyd has done that. I know we want to think about Corrales, we want to think about Arturo Gatti, but I think Spence and Crawford was supposed to be more of a level playing field, and Crawford showed just really that it wasn't. Then you think about Crawford fighting across multiple styles. always switching seamlessly. He just kind of floats around in the ring between orthodox and southpaw, showing versatility Floyd never fully embraced. Could Floyd fight out of the southpaw stance? Yeah, but he wasn't that effective. Crawford is highly effective and can dominate from southpaw orthodox. That's just something, that's a quality you just haven't really seen. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, while Floyd, his defense was impenetrable, Crawford demonstrates more flexibility, counterpunching, pressure fighting, mid-range boxing, and finishing on the inside, as well as he had good defense. But Crawford's adaptability makes him arguably more complete in terms of overall tool set and skill set when it comes to some fans. And then risk taking. Look at Crawford and the point he's at in his career, and he's still out here taking risky fights. You know what I'm saying? And the fights he's taking, he's getting paid good money, but he's not getting the financial guarantees that Floyd demanded or Floyd received. You take a look, for example, when Crawford went to fight Spence, no rematch clause on his side, showing his willingness to bet on himself. Backed himself in a corner. Mayweather, in contrast, was known for carefully negotiating every detail to his advantage once he became the A side after fighting Oscar De La Hoya. Some argue that Crawford's courage in taking these risks make him way greater because he knew that it was sink or swim. Where Floyd knew no matter what, he was going to keep swimming and getting paid. And then you talk about the argument for pound status across eras. You know, while Floyd was undisputed #1 during his era, Crawford has been compared across multiple generations. He's proven himself against bigger, stronger opponents with his ability to climb in weight. Some argue he could have even tested himself at 175 pounds after seeing the way he performed against Canelo. And for sure, he'd skip 160, but then for sure he could dominate there. So again, his pound-for-pound dominance is still ongoing, giving him a chance to carve out a legacy beyond what Floyd accomplished, but at the same time, Crawford's talking about just wanting the most money. And when you start talking like that, it's a tendency to lose focus. But Crawford hasn't shown that yet. So when you transition into the next part of the argument, this is the case about Terence Crawford not surpassing Floyd Mayweather. So you got to understand with Floyd Mayweather, that undefeated record and resume depth, 50-0 record, that shit's not just undefeated. It's loaded with big names across multiple eras. Pacquiao, De La Hoya, Mosley, Alvarez, Diego Corrales, Castillo, Hatton, Miguel Cotto, shit, man, and many, many, many more. Crawford's resume is stellar. It is. But it don't match the sheer depth of Hall of Fame opponents that Floyd conquered. And some would say that if Crawford fought the guys Floyd fought, Crawford would have beat them all too. Well, the counter argument to that is Floyd 100% would have beaten everybody that Crawford fought. And one guy in particular, a mutual opponent, he beat him first and showed everybody how to beat him. That's Canelo Alvarez. Then you talk about Floyd Mayweather. Why Crawford could never surpass him is the crossover super fights. Floyd dominated mega fights. Look at him, Manny Pacquiao, shattering pay-per-view records. When Canelo Alvarez in 2013, man, masterclass against a young bull who was very dangerous. But, Crawford has yet to really capture global mainstream. Maybe with the Canelo win, it'll get him some attention, but he doesn't look like he'll ever be on the level of a Floyd Mayweather. But if he does have the opportunity, it would be right now. But who knows what Crawford's going to do next. So boxing greatness isn't just about the ring. It's also about cultural impact. And Floyd's reach, to be honest with you, is just unmatched. And you talk about financial dominance. Crawford is starting to get his money now, but Floyd changed boxing business forever, and Crawford's benefiting from that. Plus, it helps that Turki Al-Sheikh is in the house. Floyd became the highest paid athlete in the world. It's all sports, man. And the face of the sport for over a decade. Crawford, although he's very respected, especially after what he did with Canelo, he's just not had the same financial clout or influence. And it's evident when you see him in his next fight. It looks like he may make the same or make less, which sucks. You figure Crawford go right into a 9-figure payday in his next fight after what he did to Canelo, but doesn't like that's going to be the case. But the Money Mayweather, let me tell you, that brand elevated Floyd beyond boxing into pop culture. Crawford, despite his greatness, he just hasn't crossed into that realm. And, Crawford doesn't seem to care, to be honest with you. But when it comes to Floyd, look, Just defensive mastery and all-around talent, man. Crawford is versatile, but Floyd's defensive genius was unprecedented. That's why some would argue if Floyd and Crawford, if they would have fought prime for prime, they think Floyd would have beat Crawford. No fighter ever solved the Da Vinci Code, the Mayweather puzzle. Crawford gets hit more even when dominating, but Crawford takes more risk. Floyd's ability to shut opponents down while minimizing damage extended his career and allowed him to retire virtually untouched. So longevity counts, and Floyd's ability to neutralize everyone he faced makes his skill set unique. That's why the rumors about him returning to fight Canelo Alvarez in a rematch at age 48, and people are favoring Floyd to beat Canelo, and Canelo's 35, so there you go. The other thing that's really interesting, I don't think Crawford will have the opportunity, but you just go look at the longevity at the elite level for Floyd. Floyd was a champion for 20 years, staying at the top from the 1990s to 2017. Crawford, he's been dominant. He's been doing the business, but he has yet to prove that same level of sustained greatness. Floyd never slipped, never lost focus, and never had a decline. Crawford's still writing his story, but until he sustains dominance across decades, the comparisons fall short. But Crawford, he's maybe 5 fights away, to me, to dominate, to surpass and eclipse Floyd. But still, it's still hard for me to say Crawford has surpassed Floyd Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? When you take into consideration everything that we're talking about. Then you look at the pressure and expectations. Who's got more pressure on him? Who has more expectations? Floyd always had the biggest target on his back. He was booed, he was hated, he was criticized, yet he thrived under the spotlight. Crawford's been avoided by many. Not many people give him the credit he deserves, but that says something about his danger, But it also means that he hasn't had the same relentless spotlight Floyd endured and conquered. Being the man for over a decade is a level of pressure that Bud hasn't carried yet. But he has had to carry the burden of people not really giving him credit for his skill and his talent. He's had the burden, wear the burden of being ostracized and blackballed, and kind of left out of big money fights. So the bottom line is, when you take a look at all this, you got two legends, you got two different stories. So has Crawford surpassed Floyd Mayweather? I mean, it depends on how you want to break out the arguments, you know what I'm saying? It depends on how you define greatness. It's subjective. We ain't all going to agree, but if it's about modern accomplishments, dominance, undisputed status, Crawford has a really strong argument. But if it's about resume depth, cultural impact, financial influence, to where Crawford's benefiting from, and sustained dominance, Floyd's case is untouchable. You know what I'm saying? But one thing for sure, and what's undeniable, is that, both men are legends. These guys are legends, man, and debates like this prove how special they are. Crawford's still active. I think 5 more fights, then I think it's a no-brainer, especially if he keeps dominating, against killers. That's going to tell you a whole lot about his story. And, if he can, I think it'll be really huge if he melts down to 160 after putting on that muscle at 168 and becomes undisputed at 160. Even if he goes to 175 and somehow fights above all and beats above all Bertabiev. I just think those are huge, huge accomplishments. But Floyd hasn't done anything like that. Not late in his career. You know what I'm saying? Like what Floyd is doing, like what Crawford's doing at his age. That shit would matter. But I do think Crawford has a chance to surpass Floyd. I think it's still alive. But for now, in my opinion, Floyd remains the benchmark. And Bud is chasing history in real time. But the good thing is, he has time. And the way he's going, he just may surpass Floyd Mayweather. And whether Floyd wants or not, he may have to pass that torch to Terence Crawford. And next you know, we'll be calling Terence Crawford TBE. Terence, the best ever. TTBE. Floyd ain't gonna like that. Y'all keep cool, I'm in the breeze.